Singapore Press Holdings' new media entity has its chairman, with former Cabinet Minister Khaw Boon Wan appointed to the role.
The not-for-profit entity will be a company limited by guarantee or CLG, and SPH's media business will come under its charge. Such CLGs are typically formed to carry out non-profit making activities that have some public or national interest.
Mr Khaw's appointment was announced in Parliament today by Minister for Communications and Information Mr Iswaran.
I also discussed this with the management shareholders. They have all agreed that given the national importance of this undertaking and the scale of the challenge, the chairman should be Mr Khaw Boon Wan. With his high standing and more than 25 years of public service experience in various senior appointments, Mr Khaw will be able to provide strong strategic leadership for the CLG. And I'm pleased to inform members that Mr Khaw has agreed to be the chairman of the CLG, and he will be sharing his thoughts on its way forward in due course.
In a statement today, Mr Khaw said chairing the CLG is a heavy responsibility, a role that he accepts with some anxiety as he has no digital media experience.
He is committed to doing his best to ensure the success of this national project, also saying that although the assignment disrupts his retirement, he, quote, cannot allow a Singapore institution to go into decline.
Mr Khaw had retired from politics last year after 19 years of service. He last served as Coordinating Minister for Infrastructure and Minister for Transport.
On the appointment choice, Workers' Party Chairman Sylvia Lim asked if it was a missed opportunity in not appointing someone who is, quote, not so closely linked to the government. And in response, Mr Iswaran highlighted that this was a collective decision made together with SPH management shareholders and not the government alone.
He has a proven track record of taking on difficult issues and working on them. And this is one such issue. And what you need is someone at the leadership level who has the gravitas, has the strategic vision, and the experience in undertaking these sorts of major tasks. The choice of Mr Khaw Boon Wan is something that not just the government, but in fact the management shareholders were very keen on. And as I said, it was a discussion that we had. This is not the kind of position for which you have a very long shortlist or that would do a global search, In the end, you have to decide on the basis of what is needed, what are the attributes we seek, and how do we go forward. And that's what happened here. I think what would be a missed opportunity is if we allow political considerations to prevent us from making the right decision in terms of the right person for the job to get it done. And I think that's what we have sought to do.
Concerned over what the government's potential funding would mean for editorial independence, Leader of the Opposition Pritam Singh asked what the government would do to ensure the independence of the CLG from possible government interference and to foster a culture of editorial independence across SPH's titles.
Mr Singh also asked if the government would consider forming a select committee to allow the public to express what editorial standards they expect from the CLG's taxpayer-funded mainstream media. Mr Iswaran said he saw no need for this.
I would venture that that culture already exists in Singapore, in the news media. And I think we do a disservice to our journalists and editors to suggest anything to the contrary.
Mr Iswaran also said SPH's current management shareholders have all agreed to be the founding members of the new CLG. The management shareholders are OCBC Bank, Great Eastern, UOB, DBS Bank, Singtel, NTUC Income,
as well as Temasek via Fullerton Private Limited, the National University of Singapore and Nanyang Technological University.
This will ensure that our local news media will remain in the hands of trusted institutions with a long-term stake in Singapore. In due course, the membership will be expanded to include newer and more diverse institutions, such as institutions as stakeholders of the CLG.
Noting that many newsrooms globally are shrinking and even closing, Mr Iswaran said Singapore's media landscape can ill afford convulsions and closures without risking a consequential loss of diversity and choice.
For many media companies, the economic fallout of COVID-19 was the final straw. An article in the Columbia Journalism Review described it as the journalism crisis across the world. Ours is a small local market with just two main local news media organizations, SPH and MediaCorp. While there are potential synergies and opportunities for collaboration between them, we can ill afford the convulsions and closures we have seen elsewhere, with a consequential loss of diversity and choice in our media landscape. And at this critical juncture, SPH Media must similarly chart its own course to revise and, if necessary, reinvent its business model for the digital age.
Well, last week, the Communications and Information Ministry said the government is prepared to provide funding support to the CLG to help accelerate its digital transformation and build capabilities for the future. And this is something Mr Iswaran reiterated earlier today.
The government is willing to help fund the proposed CLG while ensuring fiscal discipline and accountability in areas like digital innovation and capability development as part of a long-term sustainable business plan. We already have a similar financing model with MediaCorp, our core national broadcaster, which has been working well. Having such national broadcasters, newspaper publishers, and online news platforms is a public good that benefits the whole of society. Although the business and financing model will change, the government does not intend nor expect this to affect the relationship between MCI and the SPH newsroom.